Keir Starmer on the brink as Labour backbenchers demand new Gaza visa. Oh boy, so what's this all about then? Well, basically 67 MPs, mostly from the Labour Party, are demanding that the government creates a new visa scheme to bring Gazan refugees to Britain, kind of like we did with Ukraine. And what do you think? Do you think we should do it? No, absolutely not. Of course we shouldn't. A million times no. But I'm not just going to tell you that we shouldn't. I'm going to show you exactly why. And the short answer is basically everywhere that Palestinian refugees have gone, whether it's Europe or the Middle East, they've just taken trouble with them. So no, under no circumstances should we be taking Gazan refugees into Britain. No. Look, have you ever wondered why all of the Arab countries surrounding Palestine and Israel constantly cheer on the Palestinian cause, but will not take any Palestinian refugees? I mean, look at Egypt, for example. It has a border with Gaza, and they built a wall twice the size of the one that the Israelis built. And I'll tell you why. The reason is very simple. Back in 1948, 100,000 Palestinian refugees went to Lebanon. 20 years later, in 1968, they led an insurgent uprising in that country. So the Lebanese took them in as refugees, and before you know it, they're fighting a bloody war in Lebanon, trying to overthrow the Lebanese government. It's completely insane, and yet it's totally true. There's an entire Wikipedia page about the Palestinian uprising in South Lebanon if you want to go and read more. Not good. Now, it wasn't just Lebanon that they went to, they also fled to Kuwait. In fact, at one point, there were 250,000 Palestinian refugees in Kuwait. That was about 20% of the population at the time. But you know who they didn't get along with? The Kuwaitis. Despite the fact that Kuwait had given them refuge, the Palestinians worked against them. So much so that when the Iraqis and Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, whose side do you think that the Palestinians took? Yeah, that's right. They took Saddam Hussein's side. Now, it didn't really work out very well for them because the Americans came in, that was the first Gulf War, cleared the Iraqis out of Kuwait, and the Kuwaitis turned around and said, "We remember what you did." So they cleared every single Palestinian out of the country. They kicked them all out. Not a single one left. 20% of the population gone in the space of a couple of weeks. Kind of insane when you think about it, but that was their strength of feeling. They said, no, you are no longer welcome in this country. At this point, you might be thinking to yourself, well, those are Middle Eastern countries, and we're not a Middle Eastern country, we're a European country. Perhaps it would be different if the Palestinians came to a European country. Except we also have an example of them doing exactly that, and we know how it turned out. You see, back in 1991, the Danish decided that they would allow 321 Palestinian refugees to settle in Denmark. They had to pass a special law in order to allow that to actually happen, rather like our MPs want to do at the moment. Fast forward to 2019, so almost 30 years later, the Danish authorities decided, hey, why don't we check in on those Palestinian refugees, see how they've settled into our society, how much they've contributed, etc., etc. And what do you think they found? Well, they found that 71 of the Palestinian refugees had been given prison sentences. That's almost a quarter, right? That is almost a quarter of the people they brought had committed some kind of crime serious enough to be given a prison sentence. Of the working age population of those Palestinian refugees, 200 of them, so almost 2/3, were claiming state benefits. As far as I can tell, the vast majority of countries where Palestinian refugees have been accepted, trouble has followed. Now, if the numbers of refugees are large enough, then that trouble looks like armed, violent revolution. If the numbers are small, then it looks like petty crime and welfare dependency. But do you know what we've got plenty of in Britain? Petty crime and welfare dependency. We do not need any more of that. The reality is, the vast majority of people in the world, and I'm talking about billions of people, would love to move to Britain and live on welfare, live on state benefits in social housing. Of course they would. I don't even really blame them for that. If you're poor living in China, India, Pakistan, wherever it may be, of course, that is an enticing option. It is up to us to say, no, that cannot happen. In fact, what we should be doing is setting that example by following the Americans. Right now, the Americans are building detention centers to remove illegal migrants out of the country. In fact, they just built one which is particularly interesting called Alligator Alcatraz. Check this out. So that facility is called Alligator Alcatraz, and it can house 3,000 illegal migrants before they are deported out of America. And do you know how long it took them to build that in Florida? 8 days. It took them 8 days. And you know what? They said that it could have been done in 3. It took 8 because there was some red tape that we had to push through. 8 days to build a detention center that can house 3,000 people. Do you see where I'm going with this? Because we're spending billions and billions of pounds every single year putting people up in 4 and 5 and 3-star hotels and paying for all of their healthcare costs and leaving them there for months and months and months before rubber stamp approving them and sending them off to councils for social housing. It's completely insane. America has got the right idea, and I've been saying for a very long time now, build detention centers. It is much cheaper. The Royal Engineers can do this just as quickly as the Americans can. We can build these detention centres. And think about it. All of those migrants who are thinking, yeah, I'll go over to Britain, I get myself a hotel, I get some money, I work as a Deliveroo rider, get lots of cash, don't pay tax, living the dream. Yeah, well, how do you think they're going to feel about it when they know that actually all that's waiting for them is a bloody detention centre? The coolest part of it, by the way, is, as the name suggests, it's surrounded by alligators.
We've got a massive runway right behind us where any of the federal assets that they want to fly these people back to their own country, they can do it one-stop shop.
One-stop shop, you got it all. You got the detention facility, you've got the airport. Can the federal government make good use of this?
We sure can. Talk about efficiency right then and there. So we're going to take that funding and actually house these illegal aliens before we get them out the door and out of our country.
All right.
Honestly, I think that's kind of cool. And in fact, Alligator Alcatraz is already listed on Google Maps, and it's got some pretty good reviews. It almost makes me want to go and visit. Look, I've made my views on asylum very clear in past videos, but I will do so again here. I don't think we should be taking any asylum claims from countries that are far away. Now, I would say we do have a responsibility to our neighbouring countries like France and Belgium and the Netherlands. And if somehow war broke out in those countries, then I would say, yeah, we've got a bit of a duty to take refugees from those countries, and we could do so. Fine. But countries 10,000 miles away, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, categorically not. Now, that doesn't mean we can't help those people. It just means we don't bring them to our homeland. So if a neighbouring country, say Iraq, descends into civil war, wouldn't be that surprising, and then they all flee to Syria, well, then potentially we can send funds, medical supplies, beds, tents, things like that to Syria to help them deal with their refugee crisis. That is better for our people, and it is better for them. They are staying in a country which is culturally very similar to them. It's close to their homeland. They all speak the same language. They understand the same customs, okay? It's better for them, and it's better for us. Now, do we have to send aid and things like that? No, I'm just saying that we could if we chose to. And it's really that simple. If you think that Britain has some kind of moral imperative to help out the rest of the world, fine. I kind of disagree, but fine, if you believe that, sure, that doesn't mean you bring everyone from the world to Britain. Okay, that's ridiculous. Completely the wrong idea. In fact, all of these conventions on human rights and refugees and things like that were envisaged after the Second World War, specifically thinking about whether another war breaks out in Europe. They were not thinking, oh, these could be applied to countries in the Central Africa, for example, and then suddenly people are flooding Europe. That is not what the people who built those laws had in mind. And that's basically my thoughts on immigration and asylum, in a nutshell. There's 2 more things that I want to talk about before I go, because, well, 2 things launched yesterday. First of all, Ben Habib launched the Advance UK political party, and Ben Habib's a very clever guy, and I think his heart is in the right place. But I'm just going to level with you, I'm not going to be joining Advance UK. And I'll tell you why. Because in the opening speech, there was absolutely no mention made about immigration. There was no discussion whatsoever. And for me, it's very simple. I'm pretty much a single issue voter. I care about the English people, the future of the English people, and the future of our homeland here in England. And if you're not willing to get to grips with that, then you will not win support from me. If you're not willing to accept that we are an ethnic group, and this is our ethnic homeland, and it must be protected and preserved for the English people, then I'm just not interested, really. So I'm sure that Ben will say a whole bunch of things that I will agree with, And yet I still won't support him until he comes out very, very strong on that issue. It's that simple for me. Everything else is sort of teetering around the edges. The future of my people in this land is absolutely paramount. Now, the second thing that launched was Restore Britain. Not a political party, but a kind of think tank, policy group, pressure group that Rupert Lowe has launched. Now, I think that this has tremendous potential because it's not a political party and everyone's kind of a bit wary of new political parties. But because it's not a political party, everyone can join. If you're a member of the Reform Party, you can join Restore Britain. You can become part of the conversation. If you're in the Reform Party, but you think, well, reform's gone a little bit more to the left than I would have liked, join Restore Britain, and then maybe through the policy making and the decisions and the appeals and the kinds of media that Restore Britain is putting out, that will pull the Reform Party back to the right. There's a whole bunch of things that can be done with this. And so far, a whole bunch of sort of political heavy hitters on the right, you know, Carl Benjamin, Charlie Downs, all sorts of people, basically everyone I see has joined Restore Britain. And I think it's really interesting because it's not a political party. It has united the right in a way. Even like Steve Laws and people like that seem to be pretty interested. I'm not sure if he's joined. I haven't seen that, but maybe he has. Have seemed to be sort of actually uniting and centering on Restore Britain. And that's really, really powerful because for the first time, all of those people who probably support like 10 different political parties all on the right, well, now they're all coming together in one place. And that is absolutely fantastic to see. This is what needs to happen. Could it become a political party in the future? I don't know, maybe if they get 100,000 members and those members are saying, hey, you know what, we're big and we're strong, we can take on reform and we can be more right-wing than them, we can take a much harder stance on immigration, we can do this now. You know, we've got enough members to fight a real fight here. So maybe that could come in the future. Absolutely no mention has been made of that, but it's a possibility, right? For now, it's just a sort of pressure group, and I think it's a brilliant idea. I really do encourage you all to go and join. It costs £20. Look, Rupert Lowe has shown himself to be a man of integrity. I've supported him on this channel numerous times because I really like him, and I really do believe that he speaks for the English people, speaks for the British people, the native British people, and he's a good bloke. And so he's won my trust. He's the only MP I trust. He's not the only MP I like. I like a couple of others. I like some of the things that Robert Jenrick says. I like some of the things that Katie Lamb says. But ultimately, because they're still Tories, I don't trust them, you know, whereas I do trust Rupert Lowe. So yeah, I would encourage you to go and join. I might make an entirely separate video all about Restore Britain and where I think it could go. And I think it's a fantastic thing, but it's kind of already in capable hands. It sort of doesn't really need me cheerleading it and pushing it along. So there we go. Right, till the next one. Please do let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about this topic. I suspect most of you will probably agree with me on the first part of the video. On the second part, Restore Britain, let me know if you've joined, what you want to see happen. I can potentially, if you leave a really good idea in a comment, I can push that to Rupert Lowe because he does follow me on X, on Twitter, whatever. And if I see an idea that's yours, you know, I'll take that and I'll forward it along to him. If I think actually that is really, really good, I'll do it. So there we go. It's all about crowdfunding ideas. I mean it this time. Till the next video. Peace out.